Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family. We chose this one. This is episode 223, The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift Lap 10. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode's brought to you by Brothers Company Limited, Import and Export. They are an export company, focused more on the exports than the imports. They're an export company for new and used vehicles from Japan. They established the company in 1990 in Tokyo. Shout out to Brothers Company Limited.
Well, shout out to Brothers Company Limited and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. After the break, we'll be talking to Reid Vanier about Tokyo Drift. But before we get there, Joe, extracurricular activities, what have you been up to?
Oh, I have one really, really cool thing that I've been up to that I told you about. When we bought our house, we had this shitty kitchen sink.
Oh, right. I'm like, what have you told me? But yes. Go ahead.
So we have this shitty kitchen sink, and it was like, I guess it was supposed to look like porcelain, but it was really like this like fiberglass bullshit. And like even when we moved in, that had like cracked and was like stained around like the sink.
Yep.
And Rachel and I were always planning like, oh, we will get new countertops and we will get a new sink. It's been now 5-6 years. We have not gotten new countertops. We've had the same sink. I hated it. And then also, as you know, because you had just visited not too long ago, the faucet part, like when you go to close it, it was like, oh, you had to go like down and to the left.
It works, but yeah, it's just like, it's like your, I was going to say, it's like something else, but like, it's like your toilet downstairs. It's like, yeah, pull the handle down and then bring it up. It's just like, it works, but you have to know the trick, right?
Yes. Also, we replaced that this weekend, by the way.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So we had this thing, and I'm like, you know what? I'm fucking sick of this thing. Rachel was sick of this thing, and Rachel had done so well in gambling in New York when we went to go visit there that we were like, we were gonna buy a new kitchen sink. So we bought a new giant stainless steel kitchen sink. We ripped the old one out. We go to put the new one in, and I'm like, oh, like she measured it, everything, and we go to put the new one in, and it has this lip where you like under clamp it. And it won't fit in the hole. So like these new sinks don't fit in the size hole that they say that they fit in if you have like an old standard sink.
Gotcha. Okay.
So Rachel's like, what are we gonna do? And I like look at the bottom of this thing and I'm like, are these welded on? And I was like, oh, you know what? These are just like riveted onto the bottom of the sink. So I just ripped those fuckers off. We put the new sink in this weekend and it is delightful. I'm very happy. It's a beautiful stainless steel sink. Got a faucet that has a motion sensor in it. So if your like hands are dirty, you can just like hand on the side and it starts running. And then also it has like an LED light in the faucet itself. Very, very cool, stupid, simple upgrade. If, you know, you're an adult, that's the kind of stuff that gets you excited. But
they actually, I don't know if you saw, but they announced at CES, I don't think it's available, but they have an ALEXA powered faucet where you can ask her, like, I need half a cup of water at 135 degrees, and, like, you can just do that, so.
That's
kind of cool.
Really, really cool and really intense. I wonder how expensive that is. Dude, faucets are fucking expensive. Do you know how expensive faucets are? Have you ever just looked at the price of them?
I'm actually having plumbing issues. I need to have a plumber come out, because, like, I had a clog that I fixed, and there's a clog that's somewhere where I can't get to, so I have to come out. But, like, when 2 years ago I had an issue, my parents were like, I'll buy you a new faucet, and I'm like, I just sounded super Jersey there, but I was like, thanks. Like, I don't know, but like, I didn't realize how nice of a gesture that would have been. I'm like, a faucet's what, like $60?
No.
Like, no, this is hundreds of dollars. Yes. I'm like, why is it so expensive?
Yes. So, yes, this was the situation that we ran into too. It's like, oh, buying a sink, a really nice big stainless steel sink, probably like $200. Faucet,
because then you're like, because again,
as
like
much.
A toilet, you're like, why is a toilet $89? It's like, I don't know, but like, it's like, I'm like, oh, like everything's just like not as expensive, and it's like faucet's like $400. Like, why? What?
Yeah. So the one that we got was like on like special sale. It just happened to be stainless as well, happened to match. So we just got lucky. But yeah, the faucet is more than the sink. Very weird realization that I had this weekend. Usually, like a nice faucet that you'd want in your kitchen is probably like $250 to $300. Like,
yeah.
Insanely expensive. That's what I was up to. But we did like a whole bunch of things, like but we had to like move fix the garbage disposal, do the whole. It was a full day, night's worth of bullshit. But it works now. It's beautiful. It's sealed. It looks really good, so I'm happy. How about
Cool.
you, my friend? What have you been up to?
I didn't do anything really this past week, and I just watched a lot of. So I watched no real. Okay, I watched the end of the football game on Saturday night, so I saw the
Oh,
Packers collapse, which was great.
yeah,
And then I
good
watched
time.
both games on Sunday, which were two amazing
It was
games,
probably
which I
the
was very
best day
excited.
of football in forever,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
the Sunday games were incredible.
yeah. They were saying that like because all four came down to the wire, was this the best weekend of football ever? And like maybe, possibly.
Quite possibly. I would say. I mean, so they were saying that, yeah, like on everything I was watching, you kind of have to balance the amount versus the scale, like the gravity of them, right? Because it's
Right.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
divisional round. I would say that probably was the best weekend of football ever because it's like you got two games on Saturday. There was none going against each other. Two games on Sunday, and
Which is nice because you don't have to miss anything.
yep,
It's not like because with red zone you're like you see everything, but you don't get it in real time. You're like, oh, I just saw that guy score a touchdown. Like now we're gonna see it like live or whatever, right? But this is just like you just watch it when that game ends, the other one begins, and whatever, right? So
yeah, it was really fun. And I had a really good weekend doing nothing but watching football. Yeah.
so I was watching those things and reading a lot of the books that I'm reading, and I'm reading another one for obviously for the book pod for how to win the lottery,
Yep.
which we'll get to at some point. I watched some things. Oh, so Wes messaged us. He was like, I'm also watching Yellow Jackets and Station 11.
Yes, he
And
did.
he really likes Station 11 and doesn't really like Yellow Jackets. And I'm like, I don't like the Station 11 pilot is great. But since then, like the crazy thing is, so like everything I've heard about Station 11, because you had not heard of it before I
Nothing.
brought it up last week,
Nope.
is that right?
Absolutely.
So the whole thing that I had heard was like, this is like a story about the pandemic or a pandemic that like won't make you feel bad. I'm like, cool. Every character is unlikable. I'm like, who? Okay, so like it's not depressing, but like no, they're all annoying. Like 100% are annoying.
Intentionally
It,
or annoying to you?
no,
Is
they
it
just
personal?
I don't
Is it
I don't
personal
know.
or is it
It's wild.
okay?
I don't know. Bob and I are watching it together because like we watched. I know we did. Like, we're just we have time and we're just watching TV and whatever. And so every other day we're watching one, and so we're texting as we watch. We're just like, what is this show doing? So according to IMDb ratings, there are 3 really highly rated episodes of the back half of the season. So like maybe it
Okay.
gets better, maybe it comes together. I don't know. Yellow Jackets is better, I think. The pilot for Station 11 is great. Yellow Jackets, I think, overall is really good. I know that Austin Wolf Southern, past guest of the show, really likes Yellow Jackets as well. So if you're only going to watch one, watch Yellow Jackets, I think. But Station 11's on HBO. Yellow Jackets on Showtime. I feel like more people have access to HBO than Showtime, but, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm also coming really down to the wire with Seinfeld. I only have like 15 episodes left. So either the one tomorrow or the one Saturday, and I don't want to know, do not tell me.
I don't know.
But they're the last 2 in December. So I think, unless it's not a December episode, like Festivus is one of these next 2. Because I still have not gotten to Festivus yet. That's like the last thing I know about Seinfeld that I have not seen yet. So I'm
Oh.
excited to eventually get there. So sooner rather than later, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Who knows?
I don't know, but I think that it did come out around Christmas. It tracks where you are.
Right, because all I know is it's the airing of grievances, and it happens in December. But like beyond that, I don't know anything about it. But like
December
it's
23rd. It's the day before Christmas
okay,
Eve.
because there's the apology and the strike. So I assume it's one of those, probably the strike, because that's the last one before the winter break. I don't know. Don't tell me.
Not going to tell you.
We'll find out. I've also watched a couple movies recently. I watched this movie called Italian Studies, which I bring up because it stars our girl Hattie Shaw, Vanessa
Oh,
Kirby.
cool. Nice.
And it's just her kind of wandering around the streets of New York. She doesn't remember who she is. And like the guy who directed it, Adam Leon, directed this movie called Tramps, which I think I picked for Film Club a while back. Which
Yes,
stars
you did, yeah.
Grace Van Patten, who I know as Balloon Girl in Under the Silver Lake. But I just really liked it. Like it's a really sweet kind of rom-com movie. This, I don't know what it is. It's interesting. Vanessa Kirby is great, but I'm like, I don't know if I recommend it, but like I like her a lot. So I was just, I don't know. It's one of those, I don't know what it's about. Like it's just her wandering and like hanging out with young kids. It's just like, not young kids, like high schoolers. It's just like, why? What? I don't know. So mixed reception online, but I liked it. I just, I would not necessarily go out and
This sounds like not a movie for me.
no. I watched a movie called Pleasure, which is about a Swedish woman who comes over here who's 19 and she's like, I'm going to do porn. And it's kind
Ooh.
of like, it's a scripted thing, but it's like, hey, you want to see how fucked up the porn industry is? It's like, yeah, I get it. Like, I knew that. Like, it's not like news, but it's good. It's, it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
And she's good, but like, again, would not necessarily recommend that. But the one I would, if you want to watch, The Worst Person in the World, which comes out in soon-ish, I think. I was able to watch it a little bit early. It's a Norwegian language movie, so again, subtitles, whatever. It's kind of like this, like, rom-com sort of thing, and it's
Okay.
wonderful. I loved it. It's kind of sad, of course, because I love sad things, but it's just wonderful about this woman who's kind of like aimless and like doesn't know what she wants in her life, and just the different people she dates and just whatever. And so I was really looking forward to this, and I saw it, and man, I loved it. So
Cool.
I was very, very happy about that. So I was sort of saved around other movies that I did not necessarily super care for. Loved Worst Person in the World. Also, the only other movie I want to talk about is I rewatched, because I'm almost at the end of Halloween, like those movies.
Yeah.
And so tonight, after we're done here, I'm going to rewatch the Halloween Kills, the one that came out this past October.
Yeah.
But I watched the first one, the 2018 Halloween, and I loved it. And I didn't love it in theaters. I was just like, this is fine. But I think because I watched 3 in a row that like I really, really didn't like.
Yeah.
It really amped it up. Did you see that first one? Not the first one, but like the one that came out, I guess, 4 years ago now with Jamie Lee Curtis back, where there's like they're following podcasters for a little. Did you see that one or no?
I don't think so.
Judy Greer is in it. I
I honestly wouldn't know. Like, I mean, other than like the ones that are stuck in my brain, the other ones are just like on at Halloween time,
Right.
and like I put them on, so like they just are a giant blend. I don't think I've seen it, but there's a possibility I have and just don't like I never actively sat down and watched it.
Because the weird thing about these movies, and that's why it's hard to describe which one it is that they keep resetting the mythology.
Yeah.
Like, the first one was great, obviously, and the second one's just like, okay, it happens immediately after the first one. And also, by the way, Michael is Laurie's brother. And like, what? Why?
Yeah.
And John Carpenter wrote that, but he never really loved that. And then 3 doesn't, like, in 3, which is why I love 3, the first movie is a movie. They're like, hey, watch Halloween on TV. It's just like, what? And then there's 4, 5, 6, which is kind of like a thing, and then like there's like they're resetting things, and there's like a cult thing, and then like there's resets in 7, and then like this one is just like fuck all that. The first one happened, and then this is after that. So like all the brother sister stuff, all that's out the window. So like I really like it. So if you want to watch this one, you can watch the first one and then this, and like just sort of skip everything in between because it didn't matter.
Cool.
But yeah, it's definitely one of the better ones, and so I'm looking forward, because I did not like the newest one when I saw it in October, but knowing what I know now, I'll probably like it more. How much? I don't know, but TBD.
Cool.
But I got some exciting things coming up this weekend, so I'm looking forward to doing that and talking about that next week, but that's all basically I've done. We have a Patreon page, TooFast2Forever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellen, and Justin Kleiman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Haley Gerbies, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, Jerry Robinson, Dan the Duke, Hayden, Renato DiZanano, Michael McGann, Lane Middleton, Lindsay Lewandowski, and Jessica Collins, a.k.a. Montez. Thank you all so much for supporting the $5 level or above. We've got a bonus episode coming up soon. I think we just had a bonus episode too, but we'll announce that at the end of this episode. So if you want to get in there, even $1 a month gets you early access, all the minute documents, and bonus episodes. So TooFast2Forever.com. We also have an email address, family@cageclub.me. We've got a handful of things to read today.
Okay. Things.
Emails and things. So
Okay.
Wes emails us on Thursday. He says, "What up, fam? I just finished the latest Patreon episode. What a wild-ass movie, am I right? Other patrons will know. And I just remembered you told me to email this in, so here it is, Stay Furious, Wes." And that was
The thing we
something
talked
that
about anyways.
Yes, that I asked him 5 days earlier because it's time and date stamps. I'm like, hey, email that in. And he finally sent it in, and we're like, hey, we already talked about that. So
It's
he
fine.
kind of apologized also, but yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
But thank you, Wes. Justin sent an email, subject line, Orange Liotta. Boy, that's weird. Not C. Ray Liotta, Liotta. It looks like Liotta, but it's Liotta. Orange Liotta.
Okay.
Because Justin picked In the Name of the King for us, so this is him talking about that. Just finished listening to your episode on In the Name of the King.
Yes.
I got COVID again.
What?
Jesus, Justin. I don't know, man.
Stay safe, bud. Sorry.
I got COVID again, so I'm home from work for a few days. Props to vaccines. I basically have a child. I still feel like shit, but it could be worse.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, well,
Oh, maybe child. Maybe it's supposed to be cold. Basically, I have a cold. I feel like shit, but it could be worse. Okay.
I think so. A lot of people around us are getting Omicron, as Pat McAfee says, and
Hmm.
they all seem to be fine. It's usually like everybody. I told you one person I work with got it and didn't even notice that he had it.
I don't think that I've had it. I'm doing things in public, different things the next few weeks, and so I feel like
It's
I'm
tapering
putting myself
already.
more at risk. Yeah, but like I didn't have any reaction to the vaccine, so like I feel like if I got it, it probably wouldn't be bad. But I also don't know if that's actually science or that's just me being hopeful. But we'll see. I also just hope that I don't get it. But who knows?
It's crazy that a lot of people had it like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, this is timing lining up for Justin, but already like all the people, excuse me, that I work with were optimistic. This was going to go down, and the numbers have already gone down, and vaccinated people are doing really, really well and not hospitalized. So I think you're good, brother. Stay safe, obviously, but I'm glad that everybody just has like a mild cold, and we're getting through this.
I feel like I don't know. I just see things because like I follow like Deadline and Variety, and because they just are mostly based in LA. There's always like, hey, COVID in LA. It's just like I don't really care about this. Like I understand why you're sharing it, but there's like those seem to be really bad. So it's not better everywhere, but I think I
I
don't know.
think I
It's
think
still
it
it's
is
crazy.
like the doctors I work with, I'm getting like ER numbers, right? Like I'm talking to like the ER doctors and like they're concerned about how many beds they have and stuff like that.
Right.
And they were optimistic even though they were slammed at the time and now like, from their 2 week update 2 weeks ago from now, it's much much better. So everybody's
Yeah.
doing happy.
But it's also only better if you are vaccinated. So if you're
Also
not
true.
vaccinated yet,
Yeah. Very
I feel like if you're not vaccinated yet, you're probably not listening to this podcast, to be perfectly honest, but maybe you are. I don't know. But if you're not, you're on the fence for whatever reason, go get a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see here. What else did Justin say? Yes, I picked that movie. Ironically, I remember watching it with Vani and is having a real fun time watching it. I specifically remember Ray Liotta looking all leathery and orange like he spent way too much time in the tanning booth. Yeah,
I think that it was also like there's like weird CGI of like something, some kind of like spirit or something permeating his bloodstream, so it adds to his weirdness of his
sure.
skin. Like it looks like he was like Venom, right? I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah, there was that going on too.
He says, I seem to recall Vani describing it as if a bunch of high schoolers remade Lord of the Rings for English class, so your takes were spot on.
Yes, it's a very good
There
description.
was I saw it Fantastic Fest. They made a documentary that I also saw at Fantastic Fest, and they also had the filmmakers there. But there were these high school kids, like in the 80s, I think, who remade Raiders of the Lost Ark. Have you heard about this or no?
I think you told me about this at one point, but go
So there were
ahead.
a bunch of kids, like 4 kids maybe, or maybe 2. It was like a couple kids that they like, had their friends and their family or whatever, but they remade shot for shot Raiders of the Lost Ark. But the only thing they couldn't make was there's the scene where Indy is fighting the big brawly dude at the airplane, which spoilers for Raiders 40 years ago, where the guy gets chopped up by the propeller.
Okay.
Because they're like, we can't make this look good. We don't have any money. We're just kids. Like they spend a lot of money on it, but like we don't know where to get a plane. We don't know how to make this look fake
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So, and then also there's like the discord and the strife and whatever that like, hey, one of these people cares more than the others, whatever. So they finish the movie. The documentary is them getting the funding and doing it and whatever. And so the movie, it's like them growing up from like age 8 to 16 or whatever, and then them just as adults in this one scene. So it's really funny. But that's been done, like, and it's been out there, and like I have like a poster that they signed. They signed the DVD that I bought at Fantastic Fest. So like, there's a little bit more skill involved, I think, in the Name of the King, but also
How much?
again, not Uwe Bollman though. What a guy.
What a fucking legend that dude is. I know.
Seriously.
I had to like after we recorded the episode, I was like, Rachel, I gotta tell you the story about this dude. And she's like, wait, what? And like we were sitting there at lunch and I was explaining about his restaurants and his I'll just box you about it and stuff like that, and it was awesome.
Y'all want to hear a story about why me and this bowl here fell out?
Yeah,
It's pretty crazy.
yes, exactly.
Says, can't wait for Homefront. I've seen all of Statham's movies, and that's a real fun one, Justin. Yeah, Homefront coming next week, so check that out. Not on Netflix. We talk about the end again, but spoilers. We recorded the back half of this last night due to scheduling, so like I'm alluding to things in the back half because we've already done that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more. It's not on Netflix. Go find it. It's fun. Winona's in it. Whatever. Someone bought a No Knees Denise sticker, so shout out to them. Put that somewhere cool. Send a picture.
That's really cool. Yeah, do it.
Someone named HD spaces in between, so not high definition, but HD, commented on our Fast and Furious 6 episode, Mariah rocks on this podcast, which she did rock.
Oh,
Mariah
yeah.
rocks.
Very cool.
Shout out. And then Ashish Penart commented on our Into the Blue episode, MF. So I don't know if it's motherfuck. I don't know what it is, but thank you, Ashish, for the comment. Truly, truly special.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Anish.
Yeah.
Hope you MF to you too, Anish.
MF to you too. That's, oh, well, I mean, I think we may have talked about it here, but like the Facebook page, we just have random people like sending us, remember, like, what was Kakopa Pick, right? Remember Kakopa Pick?
Yeah, exactly. Kakopa Pick.
And we've adopted the tendency of just like whatever they send us, we send back to them. So like somebody, you normally check it before I'm able to see it. So like I don't get notifications, but I saw one the other night and like just the guy sent us like a thumbs up. So I'm like, okay, thumbs up. So cool.
Yeah, these are like weird fishing expeditions, I'm sure, but like but and then there's people that think that we are actually the Fast and the Furious like thing, and either way, whatever they're like, hey, where do you live? And I'm like, no thanks. that's usually where it stops. Or they're like, why not? And I'm like, cuz. And then those are the conversations that we have on Facebook chat. Yeah.
Pretty solid stuff.
Yep.
That's all the emails, though, today. Family@cageclub.me if you want to write in. Actually, hold on. Before we go further, there's a lot of good stuff on Twitter. Let's go through the Twitter stuff. Also, by the way, Nate's podcast with us that we recorded a while back with Benno is out. So the Rocky Maivia Picture Show, Fate of the Furious with the four of us. Go check that out if you have not yet. We retweeted that. We put that out there.
It's a big wrestling weekend coming up. Yeah, it's Royal Rumble this weekend. Everybody's all hype on the Royal Rumble on Saturday night.
When we posted the episode with Mariah about Tej, it was the picture with Tej and Hobbs together, right?
Yeah.
Because it was him and the Honeys. Anna Bellina said Hobbs becoming friends with Tej was basically dropped in the following movies. That bummed me out. Those two are fun together.
True. Very true.
And then Reaction Rocket responded saying if the original Fast and Furious movie was a part of the Scream franchise, who would have been the killer? I'm going to say that red herring would have definitely been Vince, but the killer would have actually been Leon. Jesse still dies, though. So we quote tweeted that. And actually, by the way, I saw a thing. This is not really on the streets, but like one of the Screen Rant was just like, the Fast and the Furious still has not brought back this one original character. I'm like, Leon? And it's like, it's Leon. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Nailed it. 15 picture clicks later.
Yeah, exactly. So I quote tweeted Reaction Rocket and said, good cue, who has an idea? And Dan Scully, a past guest, said, not sure, but whoever will be a good guy in the next one, and whoever they killed will actually still be alive because cars. And I was like, yeah, it's always cars with these people, so.
Exactly.
Yep. Johnny Tran, and this is Anna again, Johnny Tran's dad, a.k.a. the guy who slapped him in slow-mo during the arrest. Motive, question mark? His son brought shame on his family via his connection to House Toretto, so he's killing them all to balance the scales, which would be pretty good.
I had a thought. My thought is, what if Mia is the killer? She's like,
well, that's what Mariah said that too. What if it was Mia? I mean, it'd be a massive twist at least.
Yeah, it's very unassuming, and maybe she's like, she has past grievances about how Dom left Jacob, right? Something like that.
She needs her own Fastiverse.
Exactly.
Anna says, continuing the horror movie tradition of a killer's parent taking up the mantle. So that's the Johnny Tran thing. Right? Yeah, so like, have that guy.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, Big Gelato, Simo from past guest. Yes. I'm not sure, but Jacob is definitely the surprise killer reveal for the sequel. He said, Lance seemed super murdery to me. I'm like, Lance also kind of like just seems kind. Like he could be like a secret savior, I think.
Yeah, Lance could be like the guy that shows up with the cops at the end and was like, I knew something was up. And you're like, oh shit. I totally forgot that Lance was in this. But he's the one who saved the day. Yeah. I agree.
Also, this got weird in a good way. Reaction Rocket said, remember how Mia tells Brian that Leon and Jesse showed up one day? They would reveal that his full name is Leon Linder, son of Kenny Linder, out for revenge against the Toretto family for what they did to his father.
He's just playing a very long con.
I guess so.
That would kind of be cool. I would like that.
It doesn't make sense, but it also makes total sense, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, because, well, based on what we see in F9, not the actual facts of what the years are in F9, if Kenny Linder had a son, he would be the same age as Dom and Jacob, and they would have probably seen him at the track, right?
Probably.
And they would have probably already been friends with him. He couldn't have, showed up based on, because Dom and Jacob confront Kenny Linder, and Dom beats him with the wrench, right?
Right. Unless it's bastard son, not with his father, but like still wants to get revenge for the people who
Like
killed his father.
stepson, not
Yeah.
living with his mom. That makes sense. I like that. Okay.
Reaction Rock says the crazy thing that a vengeful Leon Linder could still actually be the villain of F10 and it would work. He wasn't in the F9 flashbacks. They could say that he joined the crew later. Jesse's convict father might still have a bone to pick with Dom's family as well.
True. Very, very true.
Oh, and then Reaction Rocket was also talking about Hobbs and Shaw when we had Tori Sheehan on last lap about it. And he said, the nice thing about Hobbs and Shaw, and I don't mean this as a slight against, is that you can skip over it and not be lost at all saga-wise.
True.
You can go from 8 to 9 and not miss any beats. They did a good job keeping it separate. Any of its own dangling plot lines are contained. He says, even with the Shaw stuff, both Deckard and Queenie can still play over from 8 to 9 without seeing Hobbs and Shaw. If anything, I think the post-credit sequence plays better, which is Shaw showing up to confront, I guess, Han? Who knows?
Yes. I agree. I hadn't thought of it, but that was a really good point when I read the tweet that I really liked. That, yes, we always get down on, like, not putting it in rankings or stuff like that. But it is a tip of the cap to them to keep it separate enough that, like, you don't have to go see this because you're not missing anything in 9 without it. And that's cool.
Right.
That's a good move. I think it's smart marketing-wise and just, viewing-wise. It has enough, but not something pivotal that you're like, oh shit, I missed this.
Yeah, because he says, Reaction Rocket goes on to say the bad thing, and this is just my opinion, is that it makes Hobbs and Shaw slightly skippable, ? Even more so if it never gets a sequel. Even Too Fast and Tokyo Drift, especially after 9, are tied into the main franchise in ways that make them essential. Hobbs and Shaw only adds to Hobbs and Shaw.
Agreed. I absolutely agree with that sentiment. Yep.
And then this is kind of bleeding into On the Streets, which I think is the only other thing that I have on the streets news-wise, is that Dwayne Johnson is going to be in a movie with Chris Evans called Red 1. And I was like, Red Notice, Red 1, how about going back to Red Fast and Red Furious? And Andy Tudor, past guest,
Yes.
said he'll be there. This is some Andrew Garfield stuff going on right now. We're like, that's what we hope. Like, spoiler alert for Spider-Man.
The new Spider-Man.
The new Spider-Man.
If you have not seen a meme in a whole month,
Andrew Garfield is in the new Spider-Man, and he lied to everyone for 2 years and only told his family he was going to be in it. So, who knows?
pretty badass of him, by the way.
Yeah. I think we've been saying that the emails have been lighter, but the Twitter's been good, so...
People still know how to talk to us, and like I said, we still talk to everyone. It's just like, emails are lighter. That's fine by me.
Also, shout out to past guest Mark Hoffmeyer. He just tweeted that Screen Rant, our favorite website, Screen Rant, did the 10 best movie podcasts according to Ranker, and his podcast, Movies, Films, and Flicks, came in at number 9. So shout out to Mark.
Shit, good job, Mark. That's fucking awesome, dude.
Very, 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 very cool.
Very cool. I am glad to know him and support that. That's very, very cool.
I think that's all the news, and that's all, unless you have any on the streets news for yourself, Joe. Have you seen anything else about the Fast and Furious in the last week?
No, I have not seen anything about the Fast and Furious, or even like random shit about like The Rock and stuff, so no.
Well, Joe, the question of the hour, is Dwayne Johnson in F10? No, still no.
Still no. He's in Red 1.
No. Red 1, Red 2, Red 3. Do you think, I don't know what Red 1 is. Maybe it's like I don't know, I didn't look it up. Sequel name, just Red 2, right? Just do the next one.
No, it's...
I know.
Yeah.
Red 1, 2?
It's 2 Red.
Red 12?
2
Red.
Yeah, 2 Red.
2 Red, 2 Furious.
2 Furious, yeah.
All right, then the final thing to do before we take a break and bring in Reid is to talk about the Fast and Furious Minute. This minute is so boring. I don't even have a name for it. We'll figure out the name. Minute 46, so far right now, Untitled.
Hey, get your hands off of me! You like you gotta shoot you! Shut up, man! Don't tell me to shut up, Brian! You almost blew our cover, old man! I'm right here!
You shouldn't have shown up like you did. What, you didn't know Verone was testing us?
No, I thought you punks were running.
Running? That's great.
You don't want to see
That's real great. Oh, and if Verone wanted to shoot you, you wouldn't be here right now.
All right, we gotta get this under control.
Hey, that's mine. So?
Tell me what you know.
Well, Rome and I will be making a run for Verone. I'm not sure when or where, but he did say that he bought us a window. I'm assuming from the local cops.
I can talk to some of the guys at the local PD.
No good. If Verone's got some of them on the payroll, then we can't let them know our operation.
Exactly. In addition, Verone told us that he himself would be waiting at the drop.
It's good news. If you're going to be delivering drug money to him.
So in this minute, Roman and Markham continue to verbally scrap as Bilkins and Brian keep them separate. Markham admits that he thought Brian and Roman were running, which is why they chased them down. Roman, always hungry, goes to eat Markham's lunch. A short time later, Bilkins and Brian talk about the work Brian and Roman are doing for Verone, weighing the pros and cons of their current situation as the minute ends. So, Joe, boring as hell minute. I don't know what to talk about. I don't have a trivia question. I don't have a title. Let's start things off. Before we even talk about what happens here or doesn't happen here, which I think I already just covered in its entirety, you have a name for the minute?
I think it should be like a placeholder thing as a joke to us. Like, insert name here. You know what I mean? But like,
yeah, sure. Okay, that's fine.
You know what I'm saying? Like, add name when you when you figure one out or something. Yeah.
Add name when inspiration strikes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Because like we'll get to the trivia question later, but like I want to have a trivia question for every minute, so we'll come up with one. But like, what happens in this minute that we could even talk about?
Okay. I did have some thoughts. Let me get with my one discovery for this minute. You know, they were all waving guns around, and apparently, like, Bilkins is like the only one that's like allowed to have a gun when there's tempers flaring, because not only did Markham hit him his gun in the last minute.
Well, he tossed it to Dunn. He tossed the gun to Dunn in the last minute, I think. I'm pretty sure.
But Markham hands it to Bilkins.
Right.
To be like, you hold this because shit's about to pop off. And then, like, Brian pulls a gun out and also, like, puts it down in front of Bilkins, like, okay, we give it to Bilkins then. Brian's gun is a Glock 19. I found that. So I was very proud because there's nothing in this minute. You can't even see the walls. They're doing the thing again where they just show you their faces. So, like, they blur out the walls. Like, there's no focus on the walls. But he has a Glock 19, and that is cool because I have a cool side fact for you.
Yeah.
Do you know what that gun is important for you about?
Glock. Is it a Matrix thing, a Keanu thing, a John Wick thing?
Maybe, but I was most excited about it because it is the firearm that they carry in the X-Files.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's kind of standard issue police thing,
FBI,
right?
kind of, yeah, exactly. So not that exciting, but that was as good as I got. Okay, so I did have a thought when I'm listening to the dialogue of this minute, because there's nothing to fucking see here. Brian says at one point, if Rome wanted to shoot you, you wouldn't be here right now. Okay? Right. That implies that Brian and Roman have held people at gunpoint or shot at them. How does he know the level of his marksmanship? Just off the top of his head. Because they went to juvie together, sure. But, like, were they, like, running and gunning? Like, they gangbanging together over breakfast?
You gangbanging on bacon? I don't know. Like, it feels like it might just be, like, him, like, upping his friend's cred. Like, hey, this guy's great. Like, he shot at you, but, like, if he wanted to hit you, he would have hit you. So, like, maybe it's just, like, empty bluster, but it's also, like, he's probably seen Roman take some guys down from afar.
You think? So Brian's witnessed murders, but then joined the police force? Like, his friend was just out here killing people?
I don't know, man. There's a lot of their history that we don't know.
There's a lot of their history that we don't know. The only thing that I could think of is maybe he's like, I know Roman's intentionalities. Like, if he's not hitting you because he's too smart for that, but it implies that, like, he knows that he would have shot him if he was aiming for him. It's just, like, a weird thing to stay. I guess that he's like, you know, like, this is my friend, he wasn't trying to shoot you. But at the same time, to be like, if he wanted to hit you, he would have, is, like, a weird way to say that.
I don't know. The other thing, like, the Brian thing, the next line he says, maybe not the next line, a couple lines later, I feel like a lot of this is just, like, written. They're like, yeah, it's cool. And then, like, either it's Paul's delivery before because we talked about before, he's not a great actor in these early movies. He grows into the part. He becomes a better actor as his career goes on, right?
And especially this movie, it seems like I'm taking a guess. I have no factual evidence to this, but it seems like he was probably hungover for a lot of it.
Maybe. But he says, the last line in this minute that he says, exactly. In addition, it's like, nobody talks like that. Brian definitely doesn't talk like that. Exactly. In addition, Verone told us. So, like, it might just be that they're writing things down and either they're giving him wiggle room and he's not, or it just, you have to read what's on the, I don't know what it is, but like whether if Rome wanted to shoot you wouldn't be here right now, and exactly in addition, like there's something weird going on. I don't know. It's weird delivery, it's weird writing, it's weird overall, strange times.
I like your take right there that it was probably like, this is the script. They're like, do whatever you want with it. And then you tie in my, like, he's hungover and he's like, I'm not ad-libbing shit. I'll just read what's on the fucking lines today. And he does it, and it's like, well, that sounds really weird because we thought you'd be like, yo, cuz, like, he ain't doing that, you know? Or, like, whatever he would have, like, they thought he would say, right?
Yeah. Did you get a sense, what is Roman eating? Because Roman eats Markham's lunch.
Yes.
It's very bready. Like, the bread is very big. Maybe it's a biscuit. Maybe it's a roll. Maybe it's a sandwich roll. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's a sub. I think it's like a...
Okay.
That's what I'm seeing.
Because it looks cleanly cut in half in the middle. Like, it's very big, but, like, you can see, like, as he's holding it to take a bite, like, it's, like, a knife cut down the middle. So probably a sandwich. I don't know.
I think it's kind of like the Subway thing where, like, they make, like, you know, a 2-foot sub, but then they cut the half off of it, and then that becomes your 12-inch sub situation.
Okay, yeah.
Get what I'm saying?
Sure. Yep.
And it seems like it was kind of that. But it looked like, yes, it did look like it was like very cleanly cut from the side he's eating it from, and I'm assuming the heel is on the other end.
Or it was like, because it also has like a soda cup with it, so maybe it's a burger that they pre-cut. I don't know.
No. That's a solo cup, like the standard issue, 16-ounce Dixie cup, paper and wax, and you'd get from a deli somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Because, like, when you go to get cheesesteaks in Philly, like, that's the same shit that you get.
Fair, yeah. So,
yeah.
Okay. The only other thing that I made a note here that I think is really funny is that, remember Dunn? Like, Dunn he doesn't do anything. He's just there. You know, he's been fucking up. He's the Gallo 24, whatever, right?
Yep.
But Dunn says here, I could talk to some of the guys at the local PD, and they're immediately like, no, you can't do that. Not only can you not do that, but then Verone will know. So, like, not only is that a bad idea, but, like, it's an actively bad idea.
Because
Dunn
it is.
Just stop talking. I know. But it's just, I know that, like, somebody has to say that so that the audience is like, well, why can't they just talk to the cops? It's like, well, because blah, blah, blah. But it's just funny that Dunn sucks. And Dunn just, like, he doesn't even have good ideas. And, like, they're not only the bad ideas, but they're, like, they're going to actively make their jobs harder.
Sabotage them, yeah. I thought that was really funny, too, because... Yeah, if you're like, oh, he has cops on the payroll, he's like, I'm just going to go ask the cops, like, who's on the payroll? And it's like, no, dumbass, like, you don't know who's on the payroll.
Right.
We just fucking said this, bud. So, yes, I agree.
Do you have in mind a trivia question for this minute?
I like something about Dunn, because you just brought that up. That's interesting and good. My original focus would have been on the fact that they specifically said he's delivering drug money. Because we've always kind of, like, thought that Carter Verone was a drug dealer, but they never really mention it, and, like, with that weird thing that you said you saw about, like, it's about a heroin dealer, and you're like, well, yeah, but not really. Like, in this minute, they specifically said you're going to be running drug money.
Right.
So I was trying to think of something along those lines. Or, like, whose lunch is Roman eating?
I like that better.
You like that? It's a pretty easy question. But we could be like Dunn's, Markham's, Bilkins, Brian's. You know what I mean? Brian's the giveaway. Also, by the way, if we use their real names, you might be confused by what the characters' names are.
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, really, how many people besides us two remember Bilkins, Markham, and Dunn? Which one's which?
Sure. I think Bilkins. I think people who listen to the show, if they listen to the Heather Antos episodes, people know Bilkins.
People do know Bilkins, but, like, Markham and Dunn?
Sure.
Like, which one's which? Like, even if you do know which one it is, like, using their character names makes it a little bit more difficult.
And also, he says it from off screen. You have to like, peg the voice, right? Like, it's very clearly Markham.
Based on the confrontation, yeah. It's definitely going to be Markham, but yeah.
So for minute 46, add name when inspiration strikes. After the confrontation at East Coast Fisheries, whose lunch does Roman eat? The answer is Markham.
That's good. That actually turned out better than I thought we would get to.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else about this minute you want to talk about?
No. This was the bland... I think this might be the blandest minute we've ever encountered.
It's up there. It's not good.
Can we say... This has to be, like, top 2.
Well, because the other thing, the awkward thing about this is there's very clearly a time jump, and there's also a little bit of a time jump that like Roman is prowling like he's a panther, and then he calms down and eat the lunch, right? But like that feels like there's a little bit of time between like their fight and that, maybe not, but like there's a weird kind of cut, and then we got to get this under control. Hey, that's mine. So, and then they sit down, and Bilk is like, tell me what you know. But like we cut ahead like a couple minutes. It's just like this is a weird. It's laid out weirdly. Like it all should happen just. There shouldn't feel like there's a time jump because like there shouldn't be a time jump, but there is for no reason. I don't know why that is. Yeah. Maybe they chop things out to make this shorter.
Maybe it was a longer scene that they cut down.
It had to be. That's the only thing that makes sense because there's like one longer and one shorter gap.
You're right.
Yeah.
He's like angry and then like sitting and eating his lunch and then like mildly angry again, but then also just like let's get on with it. So
right. Cool. All right. Well, let's take a break and let us talk about Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift.
Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 223, Tokyo Drift. This episode is brought to you by Brothers Limited. That is bros-tokyo.com. Bros Company Limited has a family atmosphere that helps when dealing with customers from different countries and cultures. Relationships are very important to them. Shout out to the Bros Company.
Well, shout out to the brothers, the Bros Company, and welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. With us tonight to talk about Tokyo Drift, we have the host of the Dr. DC podcast and Ghost Facers, a supernatural rewatch. With us tonight, we have Reid Vanier. Hello, Reid.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thrilled to have you join us to talk about this wonderful delight. I mean, I'm assuming you love it because you asked to be on this episode, but, you know, delight of a movie that we've talked about now 10 times.
As soon as I, found your show, it became like a mission of mine to get on, and and I was happy to do Tokyo Drift, and it's funny, I've rewatched it a couple of times to lead up to this, and it's like even the ranking I made of these movies, I'm not 100% sure on now. Like it warms on me every time I see it.
Right?
Yeah,
I felt that way watching it this time too. Like I'm sure you see that we do the order where we put it after 6 now.
Yes.
And every time we watch it like that, it feels delightful.
And I think that plays such a huge part in it is the way I watched it when it came out versus the way I watch it with the context of the series is so different. And so now I'm retroactively giving this movie credit for things it was not thinking of.
Yeah.
With that in mind, what is your history with the series? Did you see them all in order? What was the first one you saw? We'll get to your rankings next, but what's your history with the Fast and Furious?
Ooh, yeah. I did not see them all in order. I remember seeing the first one around when it came out. Not in theater, but I guess when it would have gone to video. Then I kind of firmly fell into the camp of Too Fast, Too Furious is a dumb name. I'm not watching that movie. And then I didn't watch Tokyo Drift. I came back in for 4. I came back in when they were it's Paul Walker and Vin. And then I was back in. And then obviously, it becomes a totally different franchise from then on. And then I went back later, way, way, way later, and took in Tokyo Drift. And that was because of the Han stuff. And I went back even later than that to Too Fast. And now I've seen all of them a bunch of times. But now both Too Fast and Tokyo Drift have slowly been climbing my charts. And I feel like they kind of wrongfully got a lot of flack at the time. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if that's just me being sweet on them because the franchise now means so much to me or what. But I'm sort of upset that I wasn't on board with them kind of from the get-go.
You know what I think is kind of funny based on what you said is that, you didn't watch 2, you didn't watch 3, you came back for 4. So the beginning of 4, they have Han. You're like, oh, this must be a character I just don't know, whatever. Totally. And then you go back and watch 3, you're like, what the fuck, he died? What? Hold on. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's a weird, like, okay, so, like, it's just, I haven't seen all these movies. Like, that's just somebody from a previous movie. And then you go back, you're like, okay, cool. This is where wait, hold on. Wait, what happened?
That was exactly my experience of it. I didn't come in on 4 and then watch 4, 5, 6 and then go back to Drift. I watched 4 and then went back and watched Tokyo Drift. And I was like, so wait, when is 4? I was like,
Yeah,
what's happening here? And then for the next couple of movies, I was like, he's still talking about going to Tokyo? It like took so long to catch up to where Tokyo Drift was, which is apparently 2013, even though the flip phones.
I think people who saw Tokyo Drift in theaters and then saw 4 were like, okay, something weird is happening here because Han's back, and I'm glad he's back because I loved him, but now he's back, and I don't understand, and I don't know how much, like, in the media, because I was not... Number one, I was not watching these movies then. Number two, I wasn't reading about movies the way that I am now back then. But like, even if they're like, hey, this takes place before, it's like, okay, cool. But like, there's still like weirdness. But like the inverse, where you're like, okay, cool. Now let me go back, not knowing anything. It's like, what is happening? Like, that's so weird. And that's why we do this, because now 223, like, it's a new way of watching these, which has got to be a mindfuck.
I think that you have actually picked a more confusing way for the Han reveal than I ever imagined possible.
Well, I mean, it must be weird for you guys. This is what, lap 10 for you?
Yeah.
It must be weird going through, because, I imagine the first few times you're like, oh, we picked up on this, we picked up on that. Like, do you find that you're actively still finding things in these movies, especially these early ones, or?
Yeah, I find a few things. This time around, my big thing is this a Christmas movie? Because when Sean shows up in Tokyo, they're showing the streets of Tokyo, and there look like to be Christmas trees lit up.
Right.
And I don't know if they're always there, because, like, Japan and Tokyo specifically, like, it's full of lights, right? So, like, it might always be there. But it looks like there are Christmas trees lining the streets. And I'm like, is this a Christmas movie? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, because, like, I don't think so, because, like, they don't mention it. But, like, maybe it is. So I don't think that there are constructive things that I'm picking up on the 10th time through. Also, we talked about this with Brian and Mike on their shows, too. So this is actually the 12th time we've covered this movie.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I don't know, but the answer is yes. I'm still picking up on things, and I know that Joe is too. They might even be less helpful than mine, and that's saying something because mine is not helpful at all.
It's always like the lens and like the guide that we have for the lap is what I kind of try to watch it through, and then think about it like that. Like, think about the movie in a different way, not so much like picking up new things, just like trying to change my perception of it.
Right.
And I think that's
sense.
kind of how it works out for me. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So now, Reid, with that in mind, you've sort of been teasing it a little bit. Can you please hit us with your rankings of the Fast and Furious movie from either favorite to least favorite or least favorite up, either way, whichever way you want to start, bottom up, top down.
Oh, interesting.
And also, please let us know if you're going to be counting Hobbs and Shaw or not, because there's a real divide lately about that.
Sure, fair enough. So I'll go top down, and I am counting Hobbs and Shaw.
Good.
Okay,
that's
good.
the correct answer. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So top down. Furious 7, Fast 5, F9.
Whoa.
The Fast and the Furious, the first one.
Okay.
Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious 6, Too Fast, Too Furious, Ampersand, the fourth one, Hobbs and Shaw, and then Fate of the Furious at the bottom.
Okay.
How did I do? How far off am I from everybody else?
You
There's
did
no
well.
right answer, right?
I think the surprising thing, and I said whoa, is that you have F9 higher. Like, we started out, like, when F9 came out and we had people on early, they're like, all right, yeah, 3, 4, 5, like somewhere like middle to, Joe, what were you calling it? The top of the middle half?
The top of the third half or something.
Something real weird, and it doesn't make any sense, but also makes total sense. But then, like, lately, we've had a bunch of people be like, yeah, I don't like this. And, like, the last 2 people have it either last or next to last. And so for you to have a 3, it's kind of like a throwback to, like, the summer, basically, where we were all, like, drunk on F9. But F9's good, so I don't know.
F9 hits so many buttons for me. Like, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, my dad and I, like, were constantly watching what I now call, like, fine action movies, like a category of movie that almost doesn't exist anymore, where it's like you would be lying if you said it's masterful, but it's so goddamn entertaining and so much fun. Like we'd watch like Eraser, and we'd watch fucking like all those kind of movies, you know, Under Siege, Time Cop, all that kind
The
of
Mark
stuff.
Hoffmeyer type of movie, I think, right? So like, yes, exactly. Like the ones that are devoted 90s fans, yes.
F9 sits exactly in that pocket for me. Like, it's big and dumb, and I kind of want movies to be a bit dumber again. Like, I'm tired of movies pretending to outsmart me. Like, we thought of everything before you could. Like, I don't need that shit. Like, people clown on this is a weird example. People clown on Wonder Woman 1984, and there's reasons to clown on that movie. It's got like stuff to make fun of, but like that movie is like dumb and fun, and that's kind of what I want from movies more than anything now, and F9 100% scratched that for me. So that's why it's so high on my list.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think about 19 like people are like 1984 is the worst movie I've ever seen. It's just like, have you seen more than like 10 movies? Like,
yeah,
it
no
might
kidding.
be
Yeah,
disappointing.
exactly.
I understand that, and I don't like it as much as the first one, but like start watching horror movies, and like your bar for like the worst movie you've ever seen goes really low, because it's like there are real bad things out there, right? But like also really good things, whatever. But yes, I totally see where you're coming from.
But yeah, Tokyo Drift climbed up to the fifth spot on my list, and that happened like since 3:00 today.
It happens, dude.
I was
It does.
It's wild. I was when the first time I saw it, I think I kind of had the opinion that it's like, man, this movie really suffers by being like brand new characters, no one gives a crap, etc., etc. And the more I watch it, I actually think it's sort of like liberated a little bit. Now, obviously, like the reason we keep coming back is now we love Dom, we love the family, stuff like that. But Dom at this point has only been in one movie. The family's not really that important.
Yeah.
Right? So you go back and you watch it and you're like, no, like it's I mean, it's like a weirdly multicultural movie. They're paying homage to like a specific Japanese style of racing. There's all sorts of fun little, like they have like the actual Drift King is one of the fishermen, right? There's like a fun cameo in there for people that are like in and involved and like care about the actual sport or stuff like that. You know, like the one character's name is Takashi, is clearly riffing on like the person that invented drifting. His name is like Takahashi or something like that. Like there's so much like love of the racing in this movie, and it totally has grown on me.
And I think, you know, what Joe said at the top here was that by putting it in our order after we watch two long movies, it flies by. The other thing, and like I'm sort of like, you know, spoiling all my notes for this thing very early on, but I was curious how much Han is in this movie, given that he's like everyone's favorite character, and he shows up. I wrote down, he shows up 24 minutes into the movie, and he dies an hour and 15 minutes into the movie. So he's on screen at most for 51 minutes, and he's not in the entire middle of the movie, but like at most, he's in half this movie. And yet in that time period, he cemented his like ranking and his status as like everyone's favorite character. And so I understand that like these movies are not necessarily the hallmark of like fine cinema, which is fine, but I do think that there is real value. And it struck me, again, you're saying, do we still learn things? It struck me this time how effective, and I guess because he's a supporting character, he doesn't have to be fully fleshed out, he can be mysterious, but how effective he is at creating emotional stakes in under an hour, and like comfortably under an hour. It impressed me this time. I'm just like, oh my God, like he's barely in this movie, sort of, to an extent, and he's still like the only thing people like care about, right? Like it's just justice for Han, right? So that blew me away this time.
It's a wild ride. It is. It feels, I think the word I was thinking about this time is like, it feels very whimsical when I watch it in this order.
Okay.
Yeah, like the stakes are so low. We talk about this all the time, but like it flies by, and like, yeah, it just feels like a fairy tale that like just kind of is set in the world, perhaps, like with Vin tying it in at the end. But you're like, oh yeah, shit, that was a Fast and the Furious movie. Like, it just feels so free. A lot of the things that you were saying, Reid, like I always attribute those to the fact that this is where Justin Lin comes in, right? and that like you can
Right.
see his fingerprint all over this movie, and like all of the things that we love about the franchise actually comes from him doing. Like the first one, yes, John Singleton, yes, great, but like once Justin Lin comes in, that's when it becomes what we love about it.
Yeah, I mean it's funny. The rest of the series becomes such like a, and partly it's they're doing it for story, but it also like tonally, the rest of the series is trying to figure out how to blend those first three movies. Right? You take like the family drama part of the first movie, you take the sort of like explosive like visual component of Too Fast, and then you take this sort of like effortless charm kind of thing that Tokyo Drift has, and that's almost entirely on the shoulders of Sung Kang. Like partly it's like he's a great actor surrounded by like fine actors, but it's also that he just like his first it's the eating thing. I don't know how eating is always like a key into like, wow, this character's interesting, but there's something about like the charisma that he is like radiating, and they're very smart in this movie about not telling you too much about him, even in moments where he's meant to be connecting with Sean, and you know it's like, why would I race, you know, all this kind of stuff. Like it's very like ambiguous. Like, yeah, he gets someone's number or something, and he says, yeah, I used to like ride, you know, whatever. Like they never answer too much. It's a thing that leaves doors open for him to come back later, of course, but it's also just smart in this movie as one film, as one object. Is like part of his charisma is that you're not undoing it by like, and that's why he eats chips or whatever. Like we don't need to get like that Han Solo. We don't need all of that kind of stuff in here. And so this movie is like weirdly canny because these are things we take for granted, and like things are over-explained. They're explained to death. It's that thing about this movie is smarter than you, right? And this movie is 100% like, we're going to teach you as little as possible about this guy. He's maybe on screen for 40 minutes, and you're going to throw yourself behind anything he does because he's so captivating.
I wonder if the eating thing, because we've compared it to him before, but Brad Pitt in the Ocean's movies as Rusty is always eating. And I wonder if because eating is like one of the least sexy things you can do, and yet when people like Sung Kang or Brad Pitt eat, it's just like, why don't I look that good? Like, I wonder if it's like something that we all do, that we all look hideous doing for the most part. But like he's eating like nachos at the beginning of Ocean's 11. It's like, why? Like nobody looks good, but somehow, I guess because he's Brad Pitt, looks great eating nachos. And I think there's something to the like universality of what he's doing, but it's also like, fuck, like, yeah, I don't look like that when I eat chips. Maybe it's the cheekbones, maybe it's the fact that I'm like shoving more than one at a time in my mouth, but like there's something that he's doing where I'm just like, I want to know more about this. And the movie's like, yeah, hold on, we'll fill you in slowly. Oh wait, he's gonna die, but don't worry, he'll be back.
Yeah. I mean, you're totally right, and I think the other thing too is that eating is just such a power move, because you're right, it's not sexy, it's a little bit gross, and it's like a thing you have to do, and it's like a thing you probably enjoy more than you're doing than anything else. So if you're eating when someone else is talking to you, you're saying like, you are not more important than this, like than what's happening in my mouth right now. Like it does kind of, I think, have like a subtle kind of like middle finger thing to it, which maybe adds to the charisma a bit. It's like, nothing you're doing is so important, I'm gonna put this bag down. And there's something, he just pulls it off so well. Him showing up in 9, like even when he walks into the base and he's eating, and you're like, yes, yes.
Do you guys think that, like, two parts to this? One, like, later we find out, like, Giselle's like, oh, you're always eating because you used to smoke. Do you think that we related to being so cool because, like, they don't show smoking in movies that much anymore, and this is, like, the closest thing to it?
Oh, yeah. That's interesting, too. I mean, it's funny. I hate that they kind of explain it, but also, is there a cooler thing that the eating could be substituting than smoking?
Yes,
Sorry,
right? That's what I'm saying.
Smoke,
yeah.
But it's cool as hell. I don't know what to tell you.
They don't really explain it. That's just Giselle's like armchair psychology, right? Like that might not.
Sure,
I mean, it might as well be right because that's just all we know. But like, it's not like to your point, it's not like we have a flashback where it's like, oh my god, the time that he saw his mom, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and like whatever, and like he had a bag of chips. It's just like, no, we don't get that. She's just like, yeah, like I've seen the same shit as you have. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, okay, yeah.
But I'm saying for
that's
us,
true,
like, do you think it looks cool because like eating a chip kind of has the
Yeah,
same
maybe.
motion as smoking, and we don't see smoking it? Because like,
Right.
if you allowed smoking in movies that are like PG-13 and like there wasn't like the huge campaign against it, he would be smoking in this movie, right? Like that's exactly what he'd be doing instead of
100%.
eating chips.
You know what's really funny? If you watch like movies like there was that movie Jallikattu where it's like a bull is like on. Hold on, let me make sure I get the country right. India. Okay. And there's just like dudes smoking because it's just like there's a bull running rampage through our town. This shit's stressful. Like we're gonna smoke, but like
Yeah.
on screen there's like government appointed like smoking is bad, smoking gives you cancer, do not smoke. It's just like, oh, like that takes all the cool out of it. Like, yes. So I think that the short answer, Joe, is yes. Like if smoking was allowed, it'd be like, yeah, he's smoking cigarettes, he looks cool, but like, yeah, just like, yeah, he's the healthier kind of version of smoking, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's funny in the context of this movie too. I mean, obviously the uncle, the Yakuza boss, what's his name? Kamata.
Yeah.
He's smoking cigars. But
that's
it's also
true.
funny in the context of this movie if they're like, we can't have like cool protagonists smoke, but then at the end of the movie has the 10-second like, please do not attempt this. This was like stunt drivers. Don't do this in the street. Like the whole movie is like a thing you shouldn't be endorsing, but they're like, but we can't have smoking.
Yeah. It's very true.
So now, Reid, with all that said, is Han your favorite character, or do you have another character that you like more?
Ooh, geez, that's
In any of the
know
movies,
what?
not
I
just this
think-
movie, in any of the movies.
I think overall, I'm a big fan of Tej. I really like how
Okay.
he's grown through these movies. You know, I mean, as ridiculous as it is that he was like, I own a garage, and now he's like the second best hacker on the planet, or the third best hacker on the planet, or whatever, behind Ramsey and Cypher.
Yeah.
I like that. It's interesting that you would expect Ludacris to be more of the comedy, but he's the straight man pairing for Tyrese.
Yep.
And watching them play a sort of like Laurel and Hardy thing or whatever against each other is interesting, and I actually think it lends Luda enough credibility that you overlook the weird hacker evolution. Like it weirdly gives him a lot of gravity that he's the guy holding Tyrese down. And yeah, I think Tej has become like a sort of dark horse favorite character of mine. Like, I don't know that I'd want to sacrifice anyone to give Tej a ton more screen time, but I always like his stuff, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because I think we joke a lot about how, like, in every movie he's got, like, a slightly different, like, it's always, like, tech, but it's just, like, numbers is your thing. It's like, when is it circuits? When is it numbers? Like, where exactly, where do we fall?
Well, and he has the same answer that everyone has, which is like, I had a life before this. It's like they're all meant to be like 30 or 40. And it's like, I had a life before this. It's like, and you hit it? You were working in a garage?
Yeah, and also, like, you guys met when you were 20 now at this point. So, like, how much of a life did you have between, like, 16 and 20 that we don't know about?
Yeah, I want
know,
to see Tej Parker, Boy Genius.
Yeah.
That's the series I want.
It's Frosty. It's Frosty and Spy Racers.
It is Frosty. Yeah, have you seen Spy Racers on
That's
Netflix?
right.
I mean, you don't
That's
have
right.
to, but yeah, it is Frosty.
I have. Yeah, I've just started getting into that. I'm enjoying it.
Where does that rank on your list of... Just kidding, you don't have to answer that.
Yeah.
Oh God, where does it rank? It ranks. It probably ranks between Fast and Furious 6 and Too Fast, Too Furious. So that puts it at like number 7 on my list.
That's higher than I
like
thought it was
Spy
going to be,
Racers.
honest.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's fun.
One more question. We're changing up the format of this. We're asking fewer questions to do other things. But one more question before we talk about the movie in earnest. You brought up Roman before and Tej's thing to Roman. This is one question we're going to hold over because Joe and I love the answers so much. But remember in Furious 7, your favorite of these movies, when they go into the penthouse and they're like, we need to steal this chip or whatever in the car that Ramsey put away. And they have Roman distract the crowd by doing the birthday song, right? So we're like, Reid,
Right.
we need to pull a heist. I'm going to do something with the car. Joe's going to go fight Ronda Rousey. We need you to distract the entire room. We need you to sing a song a cappella style, karaoke style. What song are you singing? What song can you either bring down the house with, or it's so bad that people are like, I can't stop listening because this is just a nightmare.
Oh God. I go for a big power ballad. I go for It's All Coming Back to Me Now.
Oh, good choice.
A song I do not have the range for, but I think it falls in like the train wreck category. No one's going to be looking at anything but me attempting that song.
We have no Celine Dion. That is not the first Celine Dion song I thought we would get. I would have thought that somebody would have said My Heart Will Go On. I don't think anybody has yet,
No.
but I'm glad that Celine is on the board.
I agree.
Yeah, I got to hold it down for Canada. That's what I'm doing here.
I was just going to say about Canada. That's the first thing I think always. Yep.
Okay, so to kick off the conversation about this movie in earnest, we've sort of already been talking about what we're doing this lap, because last lap was the F9 lap. And we were like, oh my God, Dom has a brother. It's Jacob. What's Jacob been doing? This lap, we're twisting it a little bit more. And we're asking everyone if you could add a family member in this movie. Like, not a family member that we know, but like, for instance, like Twinkie's grandpa or whatever. Like one character in here. What would you like to see? What family member would you like to see more of?
Or add.
Flesh out the universe, or add. Just like, who are you intrigued by? Who do you want to know more about? I think what's interesting to me about this one, Joe, and I didn't pick them. I have an actual answer. But I feel like there's the deleted scenes show so much with Earl and Reiko that I'm like, I want more of them.
I wasn't thinking
like,
that. That's a good point. Yes.
But they're already in here, so like they don't count. But I have a real answer. So Reid, while you think about that, and there's no wrong answers here. It can be whatever you want. Joe, what did you say? Who do you want to see more of in Tokyo Drift?
As we were watching it, and now after seeing 9, I obviously thought answer is L, right? Like, you want to see more of her. Like,
yeah.
What is she doing in the... Because Han is, like, harboring a child during this movie.
Yes. Correct.
That we don't see. But I was like, yeah, we've thought about that and talked about that. So I decided who I'd really like to see is Uncle Kamata's wife, and like know the backstory of that. I'm feeling there's going to be like a little bit of like a Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi type situation happening here, and I would like to see how that played out.
I like that. I have two different answers, and I think one, I don't know that we would. I don't even know if I don't think she's still alive. Is Neela's mom alive, or is she with them because Neela's mom died?
Neela's mom is
I think
gone.
they take her in. Isn't that what
right, yes.
Takashi says that, like,
it's maybe not dead, but she might have been. She's a lost to the world type situation.
She's no longer a citizen of the world. She's something else of the world, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What I would rather see, though, my actual answer, and it's just based on a throwaway insult, but Earl says to Sean, after he sees Sean drift, he says, my mother, she's blind in one eye and she can drift better than that. I want to see Earl's mom blind in one eye drifting in this movie. Just like showing up everyone. Like she's like drift queen from like the 60s or something, and she's just showing people up. Like I want to see her in here just for one scene. No like actual story development. Just like see like a badass old lady. Maybe she's the noodle lady. Maybe she just, you know what I mean? Like just seeing some old lady drifting.
I want to see her like pick him up from school. Like she like comes into like the parking lot area, like where they would be standing, and she just like drifts in and she's like, get in the car, and he like hops in and he's like, oh, there's my mom, and like takes off. Yeah, that's awesome. Good one. I like that.
Reid, what about you? Do you have someone that you would like to see added either for just like a funny comedic effect or for actual dramatic tension?
Do you know what weirdly I think this movie is missing is like we kind of have this, it barely comes up. It's the most minor of plot points, but that Twinkie like sells stuff pretty generically. It only comes up in the context of that broken iPod, really. And then you just see him like selling shoes and stuff. But I think it'd be interesting if like Twinkie had like an older brother or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is like maybe a little more straight lace, a little less of like a lost kind of soul of a kid or something.
I had this thought too as I was watching this. Because he like mentions the army brat thing, when I was like trying to pick somebody with a relative, I was imagining that Twinkie has an older brother that is also like in the army, like the good son, right? Like it's like he's in the army, his dad was in the army, and like he's just like slanging, steering wheels in high school and like causing chaos because like his brother and dad are busy. But yes, I follow you a lot. That's
and
a good...
I think you've got like an opportunity to show like someone who's in the military who is like on the straight and narrow, who isn't like messing things up, versus Sean's dad too, right? Like, so you have the comparison between Twinkie and the straight-laced brother, but also between the brother who's maybe also on the naval base and Sean's dad, who is like, paying for sex and being a bad dad and stuff like that. Like, because like the weird thing when Sean shows up, and this is it never gets resolved, and it's always bothered me about this movie. When Sean shows up, not only is Sean's dad having relations with a sex worker, which is fine. Sex work is fine, but she seems like very upset. And it's pretty off-putting, and the movie never revisits that. It's like she is doing so much acting, and I don't know if it's like they were running out of time or they couldn't do another take or something, but like she is acting so hard that it actually kind of like throws off the dad's character arc, because it's like, what did he do in there?
You're right. And she looks very disheveled. Like this might have been going badly, is what it looks like.
Yeah. It seems really bad. But then, so, like, when the first time I watched this movie, I was like, oh, man, this dad's going to beat Sean. Like, I kind of thought that's where it was going, where he was like, Sean's going to go out racing and he's going to beat the crap out of him. And then it didn't. And I was like, oh, like, the dad's just, like, out of options. He just, like, doesn't know what to do or whatever. And then it's like, man, we never revisit, like, how terrified that sex worker was. Like,
yeah, we don't.
Yeah, like we spent a lot of time trying to parse that scene, because we're like, okay, so what he says is you were supposed to be on the 7th. Sean says it is the 7th. And then he's like, oh, hold on. He has to get rid of her, right? And we're like, who was wrong? Because clearly somebody messed up the day. Was it the mom? Was it the dad? Was it Sean? We never once factored in, like, the actual menace of that scene of, like... Yeah. Like, we talked a lot about, like, okay, so theoretically, say you did not mess up, right? Your son was supposed to get here the day before. He doesn't show up. So then you, like, business as usual, the next night you get a prostitute. It's just, like, that's a weird... We focus on that a lot, but we did not focus on her, like, the horror of her leaving, just like, oh, my God, like, what is... So, yeah. Focusing on the wrong things, maybe, but also, who knows?
I don't know if she's supposed to be playing, like, embarrassment or something, but, like, she's playing, like... She looks like she... just got let out. Like, otherwise she wasn't going to leave that apartment. Like, it's pretty, like, pretty grim. And then the movie just goes like, anyway, Dad was working on a car for a bit.
Supremely weird. All right, Reid, take it away. What do you want to talk about Tokyo Drift? Favorite moments, least favorite moments, things you love, things you hate, questions you have, things you don't understand about. I mean, not that you wouldn't understand, but just like the timeline of this all. Like, remember that time where we thought Han was dead, but he wasn't killed by Jason Statham, except he was killed by Jason Statham, except he's not actually dead anymore anyway. And also, we're fine with Jason Statham. Like, what do you want to go? Yeah. Where do you want to start? Tokyo Drift, please take it away.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna start with something. I don't think I fully still understand what Han was skimming money from and why. He even says, I have money. And we have to take into account that we don't know about 4, 5, and 6 as movies right now. But he says, I have money. He's skimming money, but for what? We never get like a for what purpose. Like, it's never like and then I'll get out of this town, or like there's no, like, he says he comes to Tokyo because it's his Mexico, like the old westerns or whatever. But we never get a sense of, like, if you've got 50% of something and it's better than 100% of nothing, why are you messing around? Even if Takashi is easy to mess with, why are you risking messing with the Yakuza? Like, I think I'm always super unclear on Han's, like, end game there. except that now we can write it off as maybe it was all a plan to set up the chase for Mr. Nobody. But if you take that out of the equation, if you take like the F9 twist out of the equation, I have no idea what he's doing there.
I think a lot of it is like then knowing later that he's coming off of like Giselle just dying, so he's in this like weird mourning kind of invincibility, like she died, I didn't type situation. So I think it's just like one of those like putting yourselves in a dangerous situation just to cope. I think it's and Takashi's so easy to fuck with, right? Like he's not actually fucking with the Yakuza,
Sure.
he's fucking with Takashi. Like he's not like I think he's still like fine with the uncle. Like the uncle eventually figures it out and he's like he's robbing from you and robbing from me, but like he doesn't care about that. He's just like, oh, this kid's an idiot, so like I'll just steal from him. Who cares?
Do you think that the uncle like doesn't truly care? Because he's got that whole like for want of a nail speech or whatever, and like obviously Takashi's taking the heat in that moment, but he's coming there, and Takashi kind of gets away with it because they're related. But let's imagine Takashi's not like there in the moment or whatever, or he's just as easily duped, but not related to the uncle or something like that, whatever. Like, do you think that conversation just ends there? Like, the uncle, we don't get a scene of the uncle saying, like, deal with it or something like that. Takashi takes that on himself. The whole, like, pitch of the final race is like, man, we really embarrassed you out there. Like, the uncle wouldn't want Han dead, but do you think that's true, that like after all that speech and everything that the uncle is like fine with Han stealing?
I think there's a version of the way this plays out, and I don't think it's what we get here, but I think there's a version where he's like impressed that Han is so like aggressive about his theft, maybe, right? Like, I can't believe that this little punk is stealing from me, the head of the Yakuza, or you know what I mean? Like, I can see that playing out. I don't think that's what's happening here. I think it feels like there's like an unspoken, like, you need to do what's right. And I feel like he might not be outwardly saying, take care of this, but I think I would just guess that there is an unspoken thing between the two of them that like, hey, you brought your friend in, he's stealing from us, you know what you need to do. I think that's what's going on.
Right.
And it's more about like the honor of the like structure of the system, where he's like, this is your fault. I think he's just like kind of he's like, you look, this is my nephew, right? And like if he wants to move up, this is his time to be a manager and like take care of that shit and then come back to me and say I take care of it, and then I'm like, you did good. You know what I mean? Like he's like trying to teach him the system, the hierarchy of what's going on. More so, but I do think that like in the back of his mind he's probably like, it's pretty badass, Han, good job, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't he doesn't seem like he's like that pissed about Han. He's more pissed that Takashi let it happen than Han did it.
I think there's something that like in his sphere, Takashi, like TK, is like king shit, but he's like big fish in a little pond, right? Like Han is like medium fish in a big pond. And so he might not be in the hierarchy as high up, like he's not DK, but in terms of like being a man or like taking over the Yakuza or whatever, like he's more ready, I think, for that than DK, right? So
yeah, no, that's pretty fair. That makes some sense. It's always funny to me because Han is running this sort of like youth like employment program or whatever out of his garage, and he's got like the bunks and all of that stuff, and it always kind of struck me as odd. It's like, why even run the risk of crossing the Yakuza when you like literally have the lives of children in your hands?
Yeah, and also I think the answer to that question is because he hasn't yet stolen $11 million, even though he has, right? Like, he has, because he does say in this movie like, oh, I don't need money. But like, after the fact, you're like, oh yeah, because we saw the Rio thing. But also, like in this movie, we don't know that yet. So it's like, has he stolen that much from the Yakuza? Is he independent? Like again, it's the mystery, right? It's just like, oh, I don't need money. Like you can have you can just fuck up my car, which is like the like the envy point of the entire nation or whatever. Like that you can just, because I don't need that. Who cares? Money's whatever. And so it's like, oh my god, who is this guy? And then you're like, oh, okay, because he did that job or whatever, but. In this movie, just like, has he stolen like millions of dollars from the Yakuza? Maybe.
Right. It makes a ton of sense. Like I get it. It was just one of those things where I was like, man, that seems like a misstep.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's only weird because this movie retroactively has somehow, it's both incredibly weird and also like works better than it ever could have. Like it should not work as well as it does. I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but like the mental gymnastics they've had to go through, this lands in a good place. Like it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, cool.
No, it's true. I've got another like thing I wanted to bring up because it's a moment we haven't talked about at all. And it's a thing I kind of love about this movie. And, like, structurally, it's really weird because in any other movie, you would revisit it right at the end. Sean in America racing the kid from Home Improvement.
Yes.
He's we get it. Sean's like he's a car guy. We see him in auto shop class or whatever. We see him not stick up for the kid getting bullied. They do this race through the construction site where they're building this like neighborhood or whatever, right? This community. And he's stuck behind Home Improvement's car, right? Like the road's too narrow. There's the people filming. He can't get by. It's too dangerous. He's like hitting stuff. And so he takes the detour off to like the embankment or whatever, right? And they're driving on either side of those houses. And I love that after all that and driving through a house and like through a staircase and stuff, which like he's like the frame of that car, what a boat. He comes through and ends up exactly where he was before, still like a foot behind the other car. There's something I love so much about how much work he put into, like he could have just stayed there. He doesn't jump out in front or beside. He jumps out in the exact same position that he left. And I kind of love that.
I've never thought that he like gains nothing from doing all of this chaos. Like he's just like he gets no edge on him. Like he essentially takes a shortcut that is not a shortcut.
It's impressive that he does so much detouring and only stays where he was. Like he should have lost so much more ground. So it's impressive in a way, but like in any other movie, they would at least come out side by side. And in this one, it's just like, no, right back to behind the other car.
It's not how the movie presents it, but like you should walk away impressed. Like, oh, he's actually a better racer. It just...
Yeah. It's probably the purpose is you're like, wow, look how like competent a driver is. He's driving on rough terrain and through a house and all sorts of stuff. But especially my rewatch today, I really noticed it for some reason. It was very funny to me.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's hard with Fast and Furious movies because there's always like, I don't want to be overly critical of them. I mean, A, because I love them, but B, because they are what they are. And so many of them exist in a really specific period of time. But the thing that I was like, I couldn't stop noticing in this movie is how leery the camera is on a bunch of high school girls.
Oh yeah,
it's like one of like the earliest shots of the movie is an upskirt shot of Home Improvement's girlfriend. It's like the third shot of the movie.
There is a trend, and I don't think they're high school girls. I think they're just like the Japanese models. But like, there's a trend in the first 3 or 4 movies where they're just like an extended makeout scene between 2 girls. Like the movies eventually get to a point where it's like they're not as problematic. I mean, they could still always be better, but like there is something leery and ugly because this is also definitively like. In the first movie, Mia's in high school, and like there's some, sexualizing her, but most of that group is over 18, and she might as well be over 18, right? But this is like, no, this is a high school movie. Like we're in high school, and it's like we're gonna still do the whole like, ooh, sex. It's like, well, okay.
Well, and we haven't even, then because that's happening, it's the like whoever wins me, like all that kind of crap, and it's very clearly a high school thing, and you're already feeling weird about it. Then you go to Japan and you're like, is Takashi in high school, or like what's the deal with him and Neela? It's one of those things where it's like I get why there's the high school setting, because you have to believe that Sean has so little control over his life because he's not yet an adult, and so like that's why he gets shit. Like I understand why we're in that position, but the movies are so not crafted to be about people who have to go to school.
Yeah.
Like so much of the movie is like, it's daytime, we're at the garage. Like nothing about the movie is really about the school experience. It's not like other kind of coming of age movies or like a sports movie or something like that, where you really weave it into like, what is it like to be in school? We get some scenes of that, but it's not what the movie's about. And then you add onto that the fact that Lucas Black is like the oldest looking high school student in the history of high school students.
Yes.
Then you just end up going like, so why did we have to insist specifically that these girls are in high school? Like, why are we insisting that anyone's in high school, but specifically that? And then why are we putting them in these positions?
You know, like, it does feel like, and I don't know, Joe, I don't know if we talked about this or not, but, like, a lot of times in franchises, they will take scripts or screenplays for, like, other things, and, like, so there's, like, a high school movie about cars, like, we want to make a Fast and Furious movie, so, like, we're going to, like, blend the two together. We're going to take, like, the beats of that. So, like,
Sure.
maybe that's what happened here. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
Maybe this was partly Better Luck Tomorrow 2. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, we want a car movie, and Justin Lin's kind of like, well, like, I was going to do another Better Luck Tomorrow movie, because, like, this guy kind of runs away, and it was about, like, this high school thing, and he's like, oh, like, maybe that kind of works. And, like, it turns, and he's, like, trying to, like, craft it into this, kind of like what we get with, you know, Fast 5 type situation.
Yeah, it's possible. Do you guys have, even not one that you guys think of, are there, like, specific, like, highlight or lowlight moments of this movie that you find are, like, real consistent from guest to guest, like everyone hones in on this like one detail or something like that?
That's a good question. I mean, everybody loves Han.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of dislikes Zachary Ty Bryan for the most part.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that Sean is old.
Yeah, sure.
Sean being old is like...
Sean looks old.
Sean looks
Right.
old is like top tier of like everybody. Like, he's fucking 40, and we're like, yeah.
Has anybody ever honed in on the like weird like sumo moment?
No.
Oh, the guy with the bear tattoo?
No.
The guy with the bear tattoo?
The paw? I don't know. Like, we've talked about that because that guy is enormous and he's cool. Like, I'm curious how Sean is successful there. Like, what does he say? Because we don't see him, right? He taps the guy.
Yeah.
The guy gets up. He's enormous, and then like all of a sudden
He throws
he's
him
thrown
out.
out.
Yeah.
With the money, and the guy's like fully clothed or whatever. So like, who knows what happened? I'm curious what we don't see, but.
There's a thing I love about it, and this is not the only movie in which it happens, but there's a thing I love about the idea of, like, we're in a bathhouse, so it's, like, all these, like, naked dudes or whatever, and he, like, stands up out of the bath and turns around, and he's this big sumo, and you go, like, oh, my God. Where I think maybe, like, the popular conception of sumo in the Western world is, like, big guys bump bellies until someone, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
everyone
right.
thinks of just, like, those stupid carnival sumo suits or something. I'm saying this as someone who, like, watches professional sumo religiously. But the thing that I love in this movie is, like, that is meant to be this, like, crazy badass moment. And it's almost exactly like a moment in the Van Damme movie The Quest, where a sumo guy, like, gets out of a bath big and tough and stuff like that. And it almost makes me want more other Japanese cultural things in this movie. Like, I feel like the movie's really hung up on, like, and rightfully so, but it's hung up on, like, how crazy a downtown urban center in Japan is. We've got this, like, crazy underground garage that, like, fetches your car for you. It's like a vending machine. And we've got this, like, cantina thing where, like, Sean and Neela go, where you can get, like, full meals out of a vending machine or things like that. Like, we see these little, like, those little sleep pods or whatever that are all stacked up in Han's place. Like, we're focused so much on the urban thing, and that sumo moment, it makes me want to go, like, I want to see more of, like, I want some other cultural stuff. And I don't know how you do it, because the movie has to be really, like, kind of street focused and that culture. But there's a part of me that's like, man, I want a little bit more of that.
Like some old school Japanese stuff.
You don't want it to get, like, too stereotypical or anything, but, like, even, like, I love that at the apartment it's all, like, sliding doors and stuff like that. And there's a part of me that just, like, wants to explore Japan a bit more than we really do in this movie. Like, we see a very specific, very narrow part of Japanese culture in this movie. There's a part of me that just wants to explore more of it more. And I don't know if that means that I'm advocating for Tokyo Drift 2.
Which we should be.
but I might be. I might want this to be its own like trilogy. There might be a part of me that wants that. I don't know.
You know, that is one thing that, Joe, when we had Nico and Kevo on, they were talking about, I don't remember of this one, but I think most of the movies, they were saying that, like, we're like, this is the Japanese one. They're like, it's not really, though. Like, it feels like a lot of these movies are like, it's a Western, Americanized version of that country. Like, it's not a Brazilian movie. It's like how an American views a Brazilian movie.
Yes.
It's not a Japanese movie. It's how an American views a movie set in Japan or whatever, where it's like, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like you go there for a week and you're like, I got to go to Shibuya. I got to go here. I got to go there.
Yeah.
And then, like, you don't actually get the actual taste of what Japan actually is. So
Maybe it's honest and you're seeing it through Sean's American eyes. And that was
Totally.
whoa.
And you know, the part of we said it already. This movie works because it's relatively short. You don't want to load it up or anything, but I guess it just makes me yearn for something. I want it somewhere else. I don't even necessarily care if it's in this movie, but I think I want more of seeing a culture or things like that. You know, like I think you're right. These movies attempt to do it a bunch. Like you try to get a little bit of like Cuba or whatever in 8, I guess, right at the beginning with that like race
with his cousin. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a little bit of it, or the Brazil, whatever you get in 5. But maybe I want a little bit more of like a cultural tourism thing to the
I think you're right, because like the one place that I'm really kind of more familiar with than anything else that they've gone to is also in Fate, and it's New York. It's like that doesn't feel like New York. It just feels like a city with taxis.
Yes,
like it's not like that's not a New York thing. And, you know, the geography aside, where it's just like they can't get from that place to that place in that amount of time, it just doesn't feel like New York. It feels like, oh, we want to be in New York because, like, that's where things happen. And there's taxis and there's cars and there's people. But it's like, that's not what it's like. It's not that you can't drive that fast. It just, again, yes, it's cultural tourism, but like in a way that doesn't feel satisfying. It's like, I'm glad that we're globe hopping. I'm glad that we're in Russia or whatever. But like, if we knew Russia, be like, this isn't Russia. This is just like snow. Like, what are we doing?
Right. Yeah.
So
I think I agree with that.
It's not a bad thing. It's just like it could be a better thing, right? Like it's cool that we're all over the world as opposed to just like 10 LA stories, but also, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want people to think that I'm like taking shots at this movie because the couple of things I mentioned have been criticisms.
No.
Like I said,
you're fine.
This movie is like has so grown on me. I would have ordinarily put it like near the bottom, I think, like years ago. And every time I watch it, it creeps up. And now it's in my top 5 of the whole franchise. It's not like a big significant moment, but there's a thing I really, really love, which is at the end, I'm pretty sure Takashi's dead.
Yes. We think
like
so
his
too.
car totally flips. He lands on the roof. Pretty sure Takashi's dead. The Yakuza uncle comes up to Sean and says, "You're free to go." And he turns around and smiles. You're like, I know he was kind of like a screw up, but like your nephew's fully dead. There's got to be some sort of like, just play it a little chill, man. Like, don't smile. You're like, just, you know, accept the terms of the wager you made. But like, he's like, man, this American kid, he's gonna be okay. I kind of love it. It's such like it almost entirely breaks like the emotional stakes of the movie. It's just such a great moment. I love it so much that he's like, man, America won me over. It's almost like a Rocky IV thing where it's like, yeah, communism's bad. Thanks, Rocky.
I like that he's like, yeah, like I don't have to worry about that anymore. You know, like something off my plate. But he's dead.
He outdrifted my nephew in a car that seems like the center of gravity is way too high off the ground to be like a good drift car.
Yeah.
He's just that good of a racer, I guess. I don't know.
I love that so much. It made me smile so much at the end of that movie to be like, wow, this uncle's cold, man.
Yeah.
If I can ask, what's like this is lap 10. What's your favorite like piece of this movie? What's other than Han, because that's like a pretty obvious answer, but like what's your favorite moment? You guys have been through this so much. I'm wondering if you've honed in on something or if now like you think of too many things.
I still get the Han speech, like it's I have money on top of the thing. Like I still think that's like one of the coolest moments in any movie for me. It's like every time I watch it, I'm
Yeah,
still
the
like, this
yeah.
is just fucking awesome. And I mean, granted, it is him and it is because of him, but like the whole like speech and like standing there like looking off the railing at the city type situation, like the whole thing is just, I was like, this is perfect. I think that's like a
Totally. Yeah.
moment that I still think about a lot.
I think a thing that we both
Yeah,
love
definitely.
that we talk about a lot is just the soundtrack is just like it propels you through the movie. But I think one thing that I always like is it follows is the scene after the one that Joe's talking about, like after they're overlooking that soccer field. He's like, "You want to know why I drift?" And they just show him drifting around those women to get a phone number. Just like this dude, just like cool, like it's just like effortlessly cool. And I just think
Yeah.
that it's the Han thing. It's I think that this movie also evokes a real sense of party, both like in the drift
Yeah.
garage, at Han's garage, everywhere. It's just like there's just people having a good time, and it feels like kind of just like a hangout movie at times where like drifting is taking place.
Do we ever get
Yeah.
any more, like, I mean, like, I get that we have a party in the first one, but that's more of like a metally kind, like a rock style part. Like we never get like club really scenes. I guess.
We get a lot of like outside bunch of cars are parked, people dancing. Like even in 9, there's that like where Queenie drops Dom off. There's
Yeah.
a lot of that kind of stuff happening there. You're right. I mean, God, in this movie, they show up to a party and then they go through a secret corridor, and at the other end of the corridor, there is another party.
Yes.
There are 2 parties in one building.
Yeah.
And the people look excited. It doesn't seem like as like formal or as informal.
Yeah.
It just seems like an actual club style party, and that's what I don't think that we get again.
Because a lot of the other
Yeah,
a lot of the
you
other
might be
movies,
right.
when they have party scenes, it's like business at a party, right? Like it's
Yes.
the rat bucket in the club in 2. It's Shaw going to get information in the beginning of Hobbs and Shaw, where he's like, champagne problem.
Yeah.
It's like they're not there
Yeah.
just hanging out and enjoying, which I get. I guess there's a little bit in 4 when like they're hanging out with before they know it's Braga or the Campos, right? Where it's just like,
But even that's
Right.
like
you
business.
guys know each other.
His-
It is business.
His
but, like,
office
they're
is
just there,
upstairs.
but at least they order beers, right?
Okay.
They're just like, hey, like we're hanging out and having a beer. Like there's a little bit more
Right.
relaxation there than otherwise. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I think you're right. That vibe is like all through this movie, and yeah, like Sung Kang again, so effortlessly like charming. Like everything he does is like, man, this guy's the coolest person I've ever seen in my life, and like it's almost like nothing phases him, both good and bad. Like even when he gets punched, his immediate response is is like, hey, this is what we do, baby. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, steal a money for me. Like, he doesn't. There's no version of him that is like, oh crap. Like, even during that car chase, he's just like, I got to get away. Takashi's a good driver, but like, I'm better. Until in this movie, accidentally he's taken out. Of course, it's not accidental at all, but it's so cool to see him be that chill, and it really ties into the idea of like that the other movies try to get at, the freedom of driving and racing, the like feeling the car move and the edge of the wind in your hair, and going down the mountain and stuff like that, like where he's teaching Sean how to drift. It's like the open air, you're out of the city. Like everything in the movie is trying to reinforce the idea that like car and driving and drifting equals your 100% true self. Like you're communing with nature through a gas powered automobile. Like I think you're totally right. This movie 100% nails that.
Anything else about this movie that you want to talk about? Or do you want to play some games?
Ooh, boy. Let's see. It's crazy, just generally. My last thought on this movie is like, it's crazy that they're like, wow, our son is like really lashing out. He's acting out. We're worried about him. We got to keep him on the right track. Let's send him to live with the parent who effectively doesn't love him in a country that doesn't speak his language and see how he does.
Yeah.
This won't alienate him further.
Yeah.
They just go like, that ought to do it. Great. We did it.
Yeah, it'll put him on the straight and narrow for sure. Like have a deadbeat dad.
we're definitely Team Sean's mom on this podcast because we talked to her about her role in this movie. So like we definitely empathize with her, but like at the same time, you know, I get that she's been through a lot, but it's like, is this really the best thing for your son? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm like necessarily willing to blame her or whatever, but it's like the dad is in the Navy and he's just like leaving notes and stuff. He's like, 0700 catch the train or whatever. It's like, be like, you've not been there the whole time. Like, take any sort of action or initiative. You don't meet him at the airport because you're having sex with a terrified prostitute. You don't you don't take him to the train. You're just like, you speak Japanese, right? And then like you don't help him with anything. And then he's supposed to just show up. You don't say, like, remember, they take their shoes off, so now he makes a fool of himself in the class. Like, everything about it is, like, kind of squarely on the dad a little bit to me. And then the one moment where they kind of connect a little bit at first is when Sean sees him working on the car, and the dad registers, like, hey, this is the first time we're not, like, hating each other. And he goes, you're going to be late. Go to school. Like, well, come on, man. Like, this is the one time you maybe could have gotten through to him and to fulfill your promise of I have to take care of you that you seem to care about now. It's like the dad is just such a dirtbag. It's interesting that like in a franchise that ends up being so about family, and even in this movie that Han is this sort of like made family of these kind of like rascals or whatever that like live in his garage and stuff like that. Yeah, Sean has such like a horrible dad. You know, Dom's dad is like a can do no wrong kind of guy or whatever. And everything is about family and it always comes back to that. And then Sean's dad is this real sore thumb, like a true dirtbag. Him and the uncle that's happy his nephew's dead. Like, this movie has some of the worst family members of any movie.
Other than Brian and Dom as the movies go on, are there good dads in this franchise?
Oh God, that's interesting. I mean,
Brian says he doesn't like his dad.
Yeah, you could make the argument for like Michael Rooker's character in that he tried to take care of Jacob.
But he is a father figure. I think there's good father figures.
Yeah, you mean like
biological
an actual dad. Yeah, I mean that's a good point actually. Because
Hobbs' dad is MIA, Shaw's dad is MIA, Brian's doesn't remember
Otto's
dad.
Otto's dad doesn't care about him. That's why he's a dick in 9.
Jesse's terrified of his dad who's in prison.
We only get the Shaw's mom. We don't get a dad.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting.
The Toretto dad.
No, you're right.
I guess Jack Toretto is not terrible.
Yeah, you learn he's not unassailable, but he's still doing it for like the right reasons. But he does put like a insane kind of ask on Jacob. You know, like for whatever reason he's doing it, it's like so unfair that he does it because like basically I love Dom more. He's like, I'll do this to you because I couldn't do it to Dom.
So is Jack Toretto the best of the dads?
I think so.
That isn't Brian or Dom. Yeah.
I think so.
Wow.
He's the only good.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess he has to be.
And Dom remembers him fondly too. Mia does too. Like that.
Oh, hang on. Hobbs.
Well, Hobbs, I mean, yeah, but Hobbs is a good dad, but I think like he's mean, like his primary relation is like him. How do I want to say this? Like he's like Dom and Brian in that like we don't think of him as a dad. We think of him as like a family member who has a kid, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
Because like Brian's a good dad, Dom's
I think you're
a good
onto
dad.
something. Yeah.
Hobbs a good dad, but we don't know Hobbs' dad, so.
Well, he was a shitbag.
He was a criminal,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man.
Right. No, you're right. You're
Wild.
100% correct.
Bad dads. All right, Reid, are you ready to find out which Fast and Furious character you are?
I would love to find out what Fast and Furious character I am.
So this is a BuzzFeed-style, J14-style quiz. There are 7 questions, 6 answers per question, multiple choice, no wrong answers, just whatever feels right to you. Are you ready?
I am.
Question number 1, how fast are you? NASCAR, roller coaster, Lamborghini Murcielago, Toyota Prius, Vespa, or Razor scooter?
Toyota Prius.
Okay. Question number 2, how furious are you? The Hulk, Kylo Ren, Christian Bale in that one movie set that one time, Mel Gibson, Charlie Brown, or Jack McBrayer?
Kylo Ren.
We're having a barbecue. How are you helping? Are you manning the grill? Are you saying grace? Are you kicking back with a beer? Are you babysitting? Are you being the entertainment? Or are you sneaking a snack?
Oh, I think I'm being the entertainment.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
Question number 4. You've got time to kill. What are you doing? Are you grabbing a bite? Working on your car? Hanging with friends? Drinking a beer? Working out? Or working on your computer?
Grabbing a bite.
Describe your wedding. I'm never getting married. It's just me and my partner. It's us and our families. It's a backyard country affair. Everyone I know is there. I don't remember.
But in real life, it was almost everyone I know is there kind of situation.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a pretty big one.
Question number 6. You just won the lottery. What are you buying? Your own garage, a private plane. I'm gambling it all away. My child at home, a fleet of cars, or a new life.
Ooh, a new life?
Okay. Fair enough. The final question to answer it all. What is your drink of choice? Belgian ale, Corona, something fruity, water, whatever's cheapest, or just, Joe's getting a drink. Just give me one of whatever you're having.
Ooh, I gotta be honest. Something fruity.
Okay. I think you're a new character. You were teetering on this guy. Let me see if we've had this before. Hold on.
Oh, who is it?
Okay.
We've never had this guy before. I think he's very uncommon. He is. Oh no, he's 3.69%. So not super uncommon. We've never had it before. Right. You are the eye in the sky. You are Dinkley. You are Kevin Hart from Hobbs and Shaw. Reid, there's a saying, big things come in small packages. This describes you to a T. People tend to underestimate or overlook you, but what they won't know until they get closer is that you have much more to offer than they expect. You're the person people can count on when things get tough, and you like it that way. Even if what they're asking for seems impossible, you come through time and time again because you love helping your friends, and showing off a little bit every once in a while is fun too. You get a lot of joy out of surprising people, and no one underestimates you a second time. And you drive like the wind blows.
That's awesome. You got a new character.
I mean, God, that's wild. I never in a million years would have even considered that would be an option. That's so funny. I was like, oh my God, I just don't want to be Jesse.
Jesse is an option. I don't know if anybody's ever gotten Jesse. Hang on.
It's like
no one's ever gotten Jesse either.
You have to pick like the really passive answers.
I want to see here. Hold on. Because I've never actually done this. We have 25 different possibilities. We have 25 different outcomes. I'm going to data cleanup, remove duplicates. All right, so we've gotten we've now had as answers 14 of 25. So almost half.
Wow, so there's still so many more.
There's still so many more
potential ones.
Yes, there are. There are a ton.
And these are, the coding of the game. Like Joe and I did all the answers. I was doing it manually before in Google Sheets, but the coding of the actual web app or the desktop app or whatever, and all the descriptions were written by Wes. So thank you, Wes. Shout out Wes. But there's so many of his descriptions we have not gotten. Like, there are certain characters who have less than a 1% chance, and I don't know how you get them, but there's a mathematical way to get every one of these characters. It's just most of them we haven't gotten yet. Or not most, but like a lot of them we have not gotten yet. But I'm welcome to the family, our first and maybe only ever, who knows, Dinkley.
Well, I'm honored to christen Dinkley as a response to this quiz.
It's perfect.
It
All
is.
right. The next game we're playing is This Ain't No 10-Second Race, a.k.a. Boy Do We Have a Podcast for You. So this is where we go on twitter.com, a.k.a. the Bird app, and we find people if we think they should be listening to the show.
Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Come and check out our show. Yeah.
So, Reid, you sent me a tweet already, but before we review that one, I'm going to look back at last episode's picks. We had Mariah on fire, Mariah Rocks, Mariah Doty Trevino, talking about Fast and Furious 6. So, I found Vanilla Bean at Mr. Burns Zone last time. I'm finna smoke and watch Fast and Furious 6. I just finished sweeping and mopping, and we said we make great podcasts to listen to about the Fast and Furious while you're sweeping and mopping, especially if you're high. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing, but so this does not count. But what's frustrating is that we got at least 2 people to like it based on our retweet. So it's like, dude, your tweet's not blowing up, but like people are interacting with your tweet. Like, give us a little bit of credit here. But no, Vanilla Bean does not care. So no dice.
Boo.
Joe, you found Melanin Monroe at Love X Tie. My mama talking about how I could wait until we get home to see Fast 9. Girl, I'm the biggest FNF fan you know. Fuck, I look like waiting. And we said we couldn't wait either, and we're as big FNF fans as you. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Nothing. Mariah found, she had 2. She played one for charity. I don't remember which one for charity, but I don't know that it matters because this one, another swing and a miss. We'll get there. But Joshua Martinez at Real DJ Fleet at Peacock TV. Where the hell is the Fast and Furious franchise? We said there's a hell of a lot of it on HBO Max right now and a hell of a lot of episodes of our show you can listen to too. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. As I said, nothing. And then she also found Frauding Christ at Eliana Divacar. 10 movies to know me. It was the 9 Fast and Furious, not Hobbs and Shaw, and then Santa Tango, which is the 7-hour black and white film. And we said, if you're this into Fast and Furious and black and white art films like Santa Tango, which we hope F10 embodies too, boy, do we have a podcast for you. And Joe, it's no surprise, 0 for 4, another struggle. Reid, this feels like the easiest game in the world. It's like,
impossible.
Hey, you're out there tweeting about the Fast and Furious. We've got a thing that you probably would like. Say hi? No, it's wildly difficult. So,
is it now? Would you say that like this past week's is like pretty representative?
Yes, for sure.
Response.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
If you listen in 2 weeks when we talk about Furious 7 with whoever our guest is on that episode, and you get points, I would consider it a win. Like Joe and I have played this probably now.
What's our point totals? Tell them.
Yeah, we've probably played it maybe like 80 to 100 times. And I have 45 and a half, and Joe has 47. So the next closest, somebody who did like 12 episodes with us has 27. Very few people even have over 10. So like it's so hard. It's so hard.
All right. Well, nobody thought that anyone could get Dinkley, so I'm up for the
Also
challenge.
true. Very, very true. Very, very true.
That's also true. So, Reid, can you please, the tweet that you sent me, can you read who it's from and then read the tweet? And then we're going to craft a response. We're going to retweet from our account and craft a response, but please hit us with the tweet that you found.
Sure. So my tweet is from Angela at Norse_nerd. And she writes, me and Amanda, after Fast 6, when they showed the clip of Han's death in Tokyo Drift, and realizing that Tokyo Drift actually happened after 5 and 6, and it's a gif of Samuel L. Jackson looking surprised.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so we're going to reply, and we're going to say, boy, do we have a podcast for you, but Reid, how would you like us to customize? What would you like us to add to this
To
tweet?
draw them in, to try to get them to...
Oh, geez. Okay. Maybe something along the lines of just wait until you get through 7 and 8 to see what happens.
Oh.
Just wait till you get through all of them, because there's another surprise in store. How about that?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, exactly.
And then after you finish watching them, listen to us, because boy, do we have a podcast for you.
There's more to the Han story than you know, right? So, I like that, though. Norse nerd.
And more
cool.
than... Watching this movie, I thought about it, and I was like, man, I love that, like, I mean, it's hard, I hate doing it, but it's hard not to think of things in, like, MCU terms nowadays.
Yeah,
Sure.
of course.
I was like, man, I love that Han has, like, this, like, spin-off franchise, even though it's only one movie, even though it's part of the main line of the movies. But I was thinking about it, I was like, is there anyone else I totally want, like, a spin-off movie from? And I was like, not really. I want them together. Han is, like, the only one that I'm like, you make a bunch of Han movies and I'm there.
Yeah, we want I think our ultimate, I don't know, Joe, if I'm speaking for you or not, but I think my ultimate, I think you agree, is we want a Han and Giselle trilogy.
Yep, I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just, like, their stories it's basically between 5 and 6 or whatever, like before she quote unquote dies, if she actually dies, who knows?
Yeah, that's the most ambiguous one of all of them.
Yeah.
It has to be
people
addressed,
have come people have come back from way more specific and definite deaths than hers. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Joe, hit us with yours. Yours is from a thread, which is good. You sometimes have luck with the threads, but there's one in particular that
I'm just going for the first one. I was thinking about maybe the second one. It continues on. They're talking about, okay, it's from Meatball Shorty at Shibuya Dreams.
Beautiful handle, yep.
Yeah, it's about like all of the movies. I think she's just watching them in a row.
Yeah, she said beginning a rewatch of all the Fastiverse movies this week leading up to F9 Thursday night. So she's watching or rewatching all of them this past summer.
Yeah. So this tweet says, wait, so in Tokyo Drift, Sean's dad keeps saying he thought Sean was supposed to arrive on the 7th, which is the day he shows up, and he's surprised that he's there, and tells him how he would have picked him up, but your mom said, and then the next tweet is, but your mom said the 7th, and we're a day ahead here in Japan, so then shouldn't he have been wondering why his son wasn't at the airport the day before? Which one do you think I should reply to? That one or the bottom?
I'm retweeting both of them because I think it's the Galaxy Brain thing.
Yeah.
But we should reply to the second one of the meme.
Okay, and it's just like, you have no idea how many times we've tried to figure this out. It still makes no sense. Listen to our episode with Sean's mom. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. Listen to our episodes with Sean's mom. Even she doesn't know. Boy, do we have a podcast for you. And maybe link to that episode.
He was too busy terrifying a sex worker. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
I'm saying you have no idea how often we tried to figure this out and it still makes no sense. We even asked the actress who plays Sean's mom and she doesn't know. Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
Perfect.
And I'm linking to the Linda Boyd interview.
Thank you, sir.
I tweeted last night, I don't know if either of you saw this, but as I was watching the movie, I said, why do I know? How come I never see you drift? Which is what he IMs Neela in school,
yes.
right? And I'm like, I can't, there's got to be like millions of people who have tweeted this. And the answer, yes, of course there are. But I was like, there's got to be someone who goes above and beyond, who doesn't just like the movies, but like this is like part of who they are. So I found Morgan at XMorgan Newell on Twitter.
Okay.
She just says, how come I never see you drift? But her bio is living life a quarter mile at a time.
Oh, so yeah. So good find. Nice play.
So a lot of people have done this, people with like more followers than Morgan, but Morgan represents the franchise in her bio, living life a quarter mile at a time. And I'm just going to say, because you never ask, Boy, do we have a podcast for you.
Perfect. I love it. It's crispy.
That's amazing. Yeah. I feel like you've got the best shot at this one. That seems like a match made in heaven.
Reid, I will tell you that does not mean anything.
It absolutely does. It means nothing. As weird as that sounds, you're like, oh yeah, it's somebody talking about Fast and the Furious, somebody talking like with it in their bio, and they'll just ignore us. They don't care.
Yeah.
See, that's wild to me, especially if they're like a fan of the franchise to that extent or whatever. Because, like I said, when I found out you existed, I was like, oh my god, they watch them over and over and over again. This is 100%. The best thing that I've ever found.
Well, so that's there's one of two things. Either people don't care and don't understand any of it, or they're like, that's the greatest. There's no middle ground. It's not like, oh, that's fun. It's either like, these are my people, or we're too different. We're both humans or whatever, but like we have different values and whatever. So there's no middle ground. It's not like, oh, huh, yeah, okay. It's just like, the fuck, or hell yeah, right? So it's
that's funny.
Who knows? But Reid, thank you so much for joining us. This was an absolute delight.
Oh man, thank you for having me. This was a real blast, and God, so much fun to revisit this movie and see it climb up my own rankings again. Yeah,
love it. So now you have at least 2 podcasts. What would you like to plug? What can our listeners know about you? Where can they find you if they want more Reid Vanier?
Sure. Well, I don't only obsess over Fast and Furious. I'm the host of the Dr. DC podcast, where we talk about DC Comics with like an equal level of depth and enthusiasm. We talk about superheroes and stuff like that over there and answer listener questions. And I'm also the host of Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of all 15 seasons of the CW's Supernatural. About halfway through season 4 at this moment, but we talk about real world monsters and ghosts and stuff. We talk about behind the scenes stuff about the show, and it's a lot of fun. If you like hearing 2 guys be maybe a little thirsty about the male leads of the show, then that's probably the show for you.
Well, the guy who wrote our character descriptions before, Wes, is a big fan of Supernatural. So Wes, if you don't know about this one already and you'd like to read on here, talking specifically to you, go check out what's it called? Ghost? It's not Ghostface. Ghost Facers.
Yeah, Ghost Facers. Yeah.
Yes. Close to the. You're almost in the zeitgeist now with Scream, right? Like you're close. You're in the.
Yeah,
oeuvre,
you're
sort
right.
of.
I should just misspell our hashtag and stuff and try and ride that train.
Hashtag Ghostface. Hashtag Ghostfacers. Yeah. Cool. Joe, next episode, before we get to Furious 7, we are doing a movie. I think we mentioned it in the last episode. We are watching Homefront, starring Jason Statham, starring James Franco as a man named Gator. Update since the last episode, no longer on Netflix. So you have to pay to rent this. It was on Netflix when I said it last time. It's no longer on Netflix. That's the way the world works sometimes. But it's out there. Winona in there as well. I will also say, before the next Fast and Furious movie comes out, before Furious 7, we're going to have another Patreon bonus episode. This is our second annual Super Bowl Sunday release with Brian Slumber Party, Late Night Rodriguez. We are talking about, very appropriate for this movie, for this episode, for this one today, Friday Night Lights starring Lucas Black. So, Super Bowl Sunday, only on Patreon, Friday Night Lights the movie, not the TV show. Connie Britton in both. You can get your Mrs. Coach. But Friday Night Lights the movie with Lucas Black there. I don't remember who he plays. Maybe the quarterback. I don't know. We'll find out. But Homefront next week and then Friday Night Lights on Super Bowl Sunday to our patrons.
Did he release this movie being another high schooler after Tokyo Drift? Is he an older high schooler
no,
in this movie?
I think he's younger. This movie came out in 04. So this movie was 07. So it's like he's 3 years younger, but he's still like 26 or whatever, right? So it's still like...
Yeah.
So,
okay,
yeah.
perfect.
For all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFastTooForever, or at TooFastTooForever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page with that exclusive bonus episode about Friday Night Lights and all sorts of things. I think we have like 16 episodes over there that are only over there.
Yeah.
At TooFastTooForever.com and our store at TooFastTooForever.shop. Come back next week for Homefront, then Friday Night Lights, and then Furious 7. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe, too.
And that was Reid Vanier, host of the Dr. DC podcast and Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch, and we'll tell you all about it
When we see you again.